Lights.
Lights. Camera. Action.
Action.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us this Wednesday afternoon for another episode of the Tea-Time Podcast.
Where you don't necessarily need some tea, but grab a drink and join us for today's discussion on happiness.
Today, we'll be covering a range of different topics, including what does it mean to be happy?
What makes you happy?
What makes you unhappy?
And what are the benefits of being happy?
And what are some of the happier moments that you've experienced in your life?
You know, these are questions for you too, but today,
we're with Adam Izewski, lifelong friend of mine, friend of Amadeo's. I've known Adam, I was probably 3 years old. Adam was less than a year old when
It's been a long time, that's all I know.
His grandmother used to babysit my sister and I, along with his sisters, so we've just known each other ever since. Grew up together.
The rest is history.
Yeah. So yeah. But Adam, on our show, when we have a guest, we like to take a tea break with them, ask them a couple icebreaker questions.
Let's do it.
They're gonna be quick questions, so answer them with the first thing that comes to mind. And then Amadeo, if you want to start us off.
all right, how old are you?
23, almost 24.
Oh, Lord.
Question number 2. Would you rather be stuck on a ski lift or in an elevator?
Ski lift, because at least I'm doing something I enjoy.
Why though? It's so cool.
Because I'm used to being stuck in ski lifts, not elevators.
Yeah, I guess elevator. A ski lift you can jump off at least.
There's always some noob out there that like can't keep their tips up or like slides off to the side, or always a snowboarder though. I know I'm knocking on my own kind, but
Yeah. Okay.
they don't have it together off those lifts. That's for real.
As long as you can make it out, you know.
Yeah, that's
happy
true.
and
Half the battle.
half of it. What are you doing with your life right now? Like, you know, school, work.
Oh, I'm actually on a podcast right now. So.
Okay, all right.
Really?
Oh, you see,
All
what I did there?
So you're asking us the questions.
You said, what am I doing? I'm said I'm on a podcast, so.
Me too. I'm breathing as well.
Yeah, I'm working at my family business. I am doing healthcare management, healthcare billing and coding, but I also do a lot in finance. So I'm an investor and a day trader, and I've been doing that for like almost two years now. So actually I have quite a bit of experience with that. But then my last thing on the side, I also am a music producer. So I make dope beats, yo.
Dope beats, yo.
Just to summarize it.
Low-key, like, actually check out his SoundCloud account. We'll add a link to the description. And then last question, what's your favorite TV show and why?
I have to go with Rick and Morty.
Okay.
I think you knew this was coming.
Yeah.
And I could definitely explain why. I think it's, a lot of people when they look at Rick and Morty first, they think, oh, what is this, like cartoon or something, right? And they might think it's like a show for kids or something like that. But if you actually sit down and watch the show, I feel like people will then understand what I mean, that it's more something for adults, and how much like just cleverness is in the show, whether it's their references, what they're talking about, what they're doing, what they're saying, is definitely not meant for kids, right? And so I think the way the show is made and the audience that it goes for, it's just so entertaining. It's like very intellectual almost, right?
And you pointed it out to me too, because I very much enjoy Rick and Morty as well. The consistency from like episode to episode, from season to season, like
Unbelievable.
Something that happens like, you know, in the first season is still relevant, or like still appears in the fourth season. Like something simple, that crack that goes through their like driveway in the lawn.
Yeah. One of my favorites, notice that when Rick is in his like spaceship, he never wears a seatbelt. There's only 2 times in the show that he actually wears a seatbelt, and it's after like moments of like huge distress, or he was like coming back from something and he was like absolutely losing it, and he put on like a seatbelt, right? So it's like that's the only time he puts it on. And just like the attention to detail when you pick up in the show is honestly, you just can't find shows that do it like that, right?
Yeah. So
So
Cool.
What episode was that? I feel like there was a couple episodes where I saw, especially the episode where they come back onto the ship and then they're like, and then they just break
that
down
was it.
and lose.
That was it. That was actually it. Like that was the one of the 2 or 3 times that he didn't put like the seatbelt on. And it's funny how you mentioned that. I think it's like super relatable. I don't know if you guys saw the meme that like came out after that. It was like the quarantine meme where he was like, "All right, Morty, 2 weeks, quick quarantine, in and out, right?"
Yeah.
And then like 9 months later, like, ah!
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah.
What was that?
That was my favorite scene in the whole show and my favorite episode in the whole show.
Really?
Yeah, it made you, it showed the characters in a different light where like they, you know, it's just not like right now I'm also watching Futurama, or like when you see The Simpsons, like yeah, serious things happen, but they kind of brush it off or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But in Rick and Morty, that scene made me realize that like it's, you know, while the show's lighthearted and stuff and whatever happens, like Rick always figures out a way out and he always seems so nonchalant about it. But in that scene, he genuinely broke down and was like, understood just how close he was to death and how like little, you know,
He was like, "I'm not in control of that situation at all."
Yeah, and so like it's almost like he met his limit, you know. And I was like,
he did.
It made him more human because before that he's the smartest guy in the universe, all the universes, and that like it just showed you that even he has a limit.
His character, like the way his character is written too, because like I don't know about you guys, but when you're watching the show, sometimes like, oh, this guy's like an a-hole, right? Mm-hmm. But like then there's moments where they kind of bring in and kind of shine light on who he is and that he's actually a good person who like loves his daughter and hates everything that happened in his past and like regrets it. And like I think like one of the deepest, like darkest moments was when he like put that Ray and almost like killed himself, right? Mm-hmm. After I think he broke up with that, what was her name?
I don't know.
The one that took over the whole planet, like that girl, whatever.
I forgot.
And like he like fell into a deep state of depression and almost like committed suicide, right? And it like goes to say that like, oh, this guy has everything, like he knows everything, he can. He's like, I am God, like half the times, right? Mm-hmm. But like it shows you, hey, this guy's like human too, like he feels these emotions as well.
It's interesting you say that because like, you know, today we're going to be talking about happiness. But like in that moment, you know, he's got this height of intellectual knowledge or like IQ capacity and he's just not happy being at that point, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. You know, there's this expression that like it's lonely on top of the mountain. So like wherever you are, if you achieve the top, you're like,
there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely. So, I'm going to take this opportunity. Were you going to say something?
I mean, like, imagine there's nowhere else to go, but you're so smart that there is other places to go at that point, you know what I'm saying? You just never know. Yeah.
And I'm going to take this opportunity as a perfect segue to define, in that case, you can be the smartest person in all of existence and still not be happy. You can be the richest person in the world in all of existence and still not be happy. So in that case, to our first question, what does it mean to be happy in that case? You know, like what would you guys say it means to be happy?
I would say that it's a state of being happy.
Okay.
All right, that's a wrap. We can probably get out of here now. Episode's done. Thanks for tuning in.
See you next week.
Hope you enjoyed the episode. I guess for me, what does it mean to be happy is more, I guess, present and future. You know, what are you doing presently that's eliciting pleasure to a certain extent? And I guess to a certain extent, there's static happiness, and then there's like a spiked amount of happiness.
So now that you mentioned pleasure, though, would you say that like pleasure is a form of happiness?
Yeah.
Because I want to say happiness is a state of just like positivity within yourself. Like Google defines happiness as feeling or showing pleasure or contentment. And so if you're like, you know, just if you're in a positive mood and you're just happy, right? Like it's, for me, it's a state of not having like any worries or stresses or anxieties. Like for me, happiness is a lack of negative emotions in the present moment, right?
I'm going to say something completely different on what I actually think it is. I think that like you can't always be happy. And I think happiness is more of like a state of being than it is actually being happy all the time, because it's impossible to be happy all the time. So you have to look at it as like a generalization, like, hey, I'm gonna have like down days, and there's days I'm gonna be sad, there's things that are not gonna go my way. But in general, where I am, like, say I have like a loving family, or I'm very fulfilled in what I do, or something like that. That's like a general state of happiness. And while you do have these down days, you could say, hey, I think I'm a happy person overall.
Right.
And that's what I mean by like the static happiness. Like there's spikes of happiness, and then there's the static happiness where, you know, it's not a bad life, it's just a bad day.
Yeah, because I mean, in order to be happy, you also have to be miserable sometimes. It's like
you wouldn't know what
you don't what's happiness when you're happy all the time, right? You need that misery sometimes.
Yeah, because your status quo. So the spikes of happiness, I imagine you're thinking like if you go to like an amusement park, like your happiness is spiked for that day because you're just doing something that brings a lot of happiness, right?
Well, imagine having to spend the rest of your life in that amusement park. You're gonna be happy for the first maybe day or two, then you're like, oh my god, get me out of here, right?
Yeah. Because eventually, you're gonna like tap out. Your mind's just gonna become used to it.
Desensitized, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Desensitized. So,
what's something that makes you happy? Like, just in general.
Hobbies. I think it's kind of sad. A lot of people I talk to today, it doesn't seem like a lot of people have hobbies. Like when I go to someone, I ask them like, oh, like what do you like to do for fun? Like, oh, you know, like I'm watching like this TV show, or like. I like go to work, or I do like hang out with friends. I'm like, well, is there like everyone kind of does that. So is there like a hobby you do? And it's kind of sad to see how many people don't have hobbies, because that's something that brings me so much joy. Whether it's like snowboarding or making music, and now thanks to Lucas, rock climbing too, right? Something that I really started enjoying a lot more. Motorcycles, everything, right? So I think it's a balance of like your work and my hobbies and everything for me is definitely like makes me happy. It's like brings you kind of like that moment of bliss. You might be down all day, but like knowing I can jump on my motorcycle and go for a ride, like that brings me like so much joy that like I can't like even just describe it, right? Or like when we go skiing or snowboarding, it's just like for that moment, like you're just happy, and it just makes your life so much more enjoyable.
Personal happiness in that sense.
Yeah.
What would you say makes you happy?
Pursuing hobbies. Because for me they're pleasurable, but I would also say that when I was like going to grad school, I guess that brought me happiness too, even though there was stress associated with actually doing the schoolwork and having to pass tests and study and writing essays, which I don't necessarily dread, but they're not my favorite thing to do in life. But overall, it made me happy because I knew I was pursuing, it was a means to enter the career I wanted and pursue the professional life that I wanted. So it brought me the happiness knowing that this is getting me to where I want to be. And
you knew you were in the process.
Exactly. Right? And overall, the topics interested me. It was mentally stimulating, so it provided that aspect. It fulfilled that part of my personality. So
would you say that like you base what makes you happy by immediacy or like longevity? Like this is going to make me happy in the long run, right? Like what you did. And then hobbies versus like almost the immediacy of happiness. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think necessarily hobbies bring immediacy though, because I think when you not only is, I guess I'm speaking for myself now, right? Not only does the hobby itself bring me like joy or happiness, the hobby also connects you to other people that are involved in that hobby, that helps bring, make friendships and relationships with other people.
Yeah.
So
like-minded people.
Exactly. And so while I do enjoy the hobby, like a big part of why I enjoy these hobbies is the community that forms around it. Like motorcyclists have like a huge community, right? And it's very supportive of each other because of the inherently dangerous activity that you're doing. And a lot of car drivers like don't pay attention to what motorcycles are or what they're doing, and so it kind of builds like a tight-knit community. Same thing for skiing or snowboarding or rock climbing. Like, it just brings like people together, and the people that you meet because of it is like half the enjoyment of that, right?
for me, like rock wall climbing brings immediate happiness because it's, during the activity, I'm, excited about it, happy for it. But I think it brings long-term happiness too, because I didn't think about it until Adam said it, but it does connect me to that group of like-minded people, and like that community allows me to like pull friends from it or like make potential friends out of it. But I also know that the more I climb, the better I'm going to be. The more I ski, the better I'm going to be at it. And so it's going to keep growing and improving. And so it makes me happy knowing that in the future, as if I maintain this, I'm just going to be able to do more and more and more and improve my skills and technique.
I really like how you touched on that, because you're saying that like these hobbies help me improve who I am. And I'm always a big believer that like a lot of things that you do definitely help to improve you, who you are as a person, whether it's something like snowboarding, right? Being able to like learn how to do this or balance your body in order to like, go off a jump or whatever it is you're really doing. The fact that you're doing something that say is like inherently dangerous, and you've managed to do that in a safe capacity, right?
Yeah.
And so like I feel it kind of helps you grow as a person, knowing that, hey, I know how to do this, right? So it kind of like reflects on the rest of your life, because it's like, hey, I need the discipline to learn the boring stuff first, right? You can't just hop on R1 and just go full throttle, right? Because you're probably going to kill yourself. You have to start on a small bike. You have to go further. Okay, like I now have to like switch gears, right? Upshifting, downshifting. What RPMs does it have to be, right? It's like the process. It like makes you become.
It like teaches patience and the discipline you touched on. And I think because I enjoy the three of us enjoy motorcycles. Amadeo and I took the same class. I think that by taking the motorcycle class, but also skiing, the two have played to each other in the sense of spatial awareness and surroundings. Because when I ski, I like to go quick, and but there's other people I have to watch out for. When you're on a motorcycle, you're obviously smaller, you have to have better spatial awareness. And I think the two play into each other really well. And so I think by what you were saying, like it improves you as a person, there's like positive spillovers from different things that you can take out. Like you can take out spatial awareness from skiing and apply it to motorcycling, or like vice versa, or these different ways. And so the more hobbies you do, kind of like what you're saying, like the more you'll just grow and develop as a person.
Skills that you gain that you can apply to like actual life. I mean, when I think about one of the hobbies that I used to have was wrestling, and the discipline and like the amount of work that you put in doing that, at some point your mentality changes about how hard something is, and that spills over more into life than anything, you know what I'm saying?
But you don't have cauliflower ears, so does that mean you actually did wrestling?
You don't need cauliflower to be If anything, what were you doing that you got cauliflower? But yeah, like a lot of these, I mean, I agree in the sense that like, these skills build you. So at the end of the day, it's almost like there's an immediacy and a longevity to happiness. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. When we're talking like motorcycles in particular, I don't know if you guys do. I don't know. Jesus.
Excuse him.
Excuse me. I don't know if you guys do this, but I know this is directly something I do because of motorcycles. When I get into a car, if I ever slam on the brakes, my immediate reaction is to look in the rearview mirror to make sure the person behind me is braking. Yeah. Because when you're on a motorcycle, if you
can brake the car behind you.
You just put someone I'll be in the hospital, right? Yeah. And so like it's like squished. You're driving like you're invisible. You're assuming that no one sees you, and like when you apply that to like driving a car, it makes you so much better driver. It like translates into that, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that is something I do too. Just like quick look in all my mirrors all the time. I mean, I'm driving anyway. I got nothing better to do except be a good driver.
Exactly.
So.
Or be actually paying attention while you're driving. There's a lot of people that drive.
Oh, bro, we
unaware.
all zoom out. Let's be real. I mean, especially if you're like on a long road trip. Like, what do you like? You have to think about something. You're not gonna just sit there and.
But that's one thing. Aesthetic. Like people on their phones, or like a dog in your lap, or you're eating like a burger and it's like dripping or something. Like there's so many.
I'm happy you brought that up though, because like while obviously this episode's about happiness, what do you think like the correlation of phones on happiness is? Because let's be real, us, especially our generation, anyone 30 and under with the phone, it drives me
so
crazy.
real,
Listen, it drives me crazy when I go into a social situation, like doing something, and like just like someone whips out the phone. I'm like, why? Like, talk to the people around you. Like, you can look on your phone later. Like, we all fall victim to it, but I mean, I guess that's just like an indicator maybe if someone's bored.
Adam, you know how to perfectly segue to the next topic, because the question is, what makes you unhappy? What makes people unhappy?
That was not planned at all, by the way. I just went.
That's perfect.
Look at that.
That's perfect then.
What do you think makes people unhappy? Or like, what makes you unhappy?
What makes me unhappy? I guess that's a great question. I feel like it's failure to a certain extent, like failure to accomplish something or failure to attain another skill to, like, you know,
Personal failure.
personal failure
Okay.
more than anything. Other than that, I don't know what else makes me unhappy. Maybe when a show comes to an end and I really liked it, like, you know.
Yeah. But there's definitely like the blues when you know it's like over.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
like, oh,
Or like a book and you're just like, that was the last page.
Yeah.
You know.
It's kind of bittersweet. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, you're happy you read it, you're unhappy that it ended
over.
because you want to keep consuming it. But
Mhm.
but hey,
what makes me unhappy? Like when people like lie to me, or like don't miscommunicate with me, or take me for granted, something like that. You know, like when people.
Well, if we're
Like,
talking person to person, yeah,
do
those
wrong.
things
I feel like that's everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, there's that. What makes you unhappy?
I don't like being controlled by like people. That's why like I feel like sometimes I really struggle working for others. Is I like my own independence, and that's why I like my hobbies, and I like that I can go do these things, learn it by myself, and it's like a sense of accomplishment for me, right?
Sounds like you're unhappy with micromanaging
Yes.
bosses.
Yes, any type of micromanagement in my life definitely I'm definitely kind of like a free spirit.
Yeah.
I like a lot of free spirited things. I love like outdoors and things like that for a reason. Is because
Yeah.
I feel free. And any kind of like micromanagement, like really like you'll see if I'm being micromanaged, you'll like see my
Yeah.
demeanor. It's like you can tell that I'm just like miserable.
Yeah.
right?
Your level of happiness sincerely.
The Apple meter dies.
The happometer, yeah.
Oh.
I gotta get that. You know, in TikTok, there's like a trend with that octopus, where it's like there's like a little octopus, and they like you put it out if you're like happy, and then you like flip it inside out with like a frown face on it when you're like unhappy.
Oh, to let
You know what I'm
everybody
talking
know.
about? To let everyone know. So
Or like, I ain't feeling it
yeah,
today.
exactly. So like a trend that people started doing was like a girlfriend or something would be like under the sheets, and she like put out the octopus that she's unhappy, and then like her boyfriend would go like throw her like hot Cheetos into the covers, and throw her like a muffin, or throw her like a movie or like a video game, and he'd like keep throwing her stuff until she finally like takes the octopus, like flips it inside out and shows that like she's happy. That's great.
I need one of those.
Don't we all,
I
right?
need one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, so I guess translating to another question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Excuse me. What would you say the negative effects of being unhappy are? Like, because
I mean-
being happy translates to, like, you know, other skills too, but I'm sure being unhappy translates to maybe other skills
Yeah.
too, but I don't know if they would be
I think
positive.
being unhappy leads to nothing, and that's the problem. I think if you're unhappy, you're unmotivated to do anything. And when people are unmotivated, I see myself all the time. Like, one of my biggest hobbies is like day trading and investing, right? You don't even have to tell me to do it. I'm like 24/7. It's just like I enjoy it so much that like I just do it out of my own free will, right? But like if you're unmotivated to do so, like say you're doing something that you don't really enjoy, it says you just don't make as much progress. I mean, how are you going to? You're unsatisfied with what you're doing, and so if you're unhappy, less things get done. We as humanity, I feel like we just go less forward because you just don't want to do it. Why do you want to do something that makes you unhappy, right?
Yeah. I think also being unhappy probably shortens your lifespan, leads to depression, anxiety, like all those.
There's a lot of clinical research on that too.
All those things. I think it definitely has an impact. I want to tie a couple things together, but I think being unhappy definitely, they'll have like an impact on the people immediately around you, like your family, and because you know that's just negative energy. You're gonna be
taking it out unfairly maybe on someone.
Well, you can be
bleeding
taking
it into the world.
I was thinking, yeah, more bleeding it into the world, because you know body language is a huge component of like human communication, and if you're unhappy, people can see it. Like it'll be obvious, right?
Yeah.
And by de facto, people that like see you being unhappy, they might themselves be unhappy, or like, oh, I don't know how to talk to this person, or like if someone sees someone that's unhappy, but that person is like really excited and happy about something, they're not going to be as open and willing to share, because they're going to feel bad for the other person. Oh, I don't want to make them jealous or put them down. Like I'm super happy. And so it might have an impact. By being unhappy, you might lessen other people's happiness.
But I think like the problem with unhappiness, though, I think it's really toxic too. Is I guess the best example you could use is look at the internet, right? If someone like you have someone like, okay, say Tom Brady, right, won his 7th Super Bowl this last weekend, and guarantee you any post about it, go to the comments and see what are the comments like.
He's the GOAT.
Yeah, there's gonna be like positive ones and everything too, but like if you go through them, like a lot of them are negative, or luckiest of all time, like all this stuff. And I think a lot of people who are just unhappy with who they are as a person or how they are in their life, like you see this guy accomplishing something no one has ever accomplished before, and in order to like make yourself feel better, you have to try to put that person down, right? And I feel like that's like a huge weapon that's used, especially on the internet, because you always have the safety of the screen, right?
Yeah, keyboard warriors.
Keyboard warriors.
Which
exactly.
is, one, that aspect is annoying, but it's also interesting, and I guess leads to a bigger issue that like people aren't able to kind of just like, they can't cope with their emotions in like a positive way. And yeah, instead of just being like respecting the fact that like, yeah, you know, you won your 7th Super Bowl, I'm unhappy, but that doesn't mean I have to be rude or angry with you. Like just be respectful, show good sportsmanship. And I'm not saying like that's the other people, like other players, but just the internet in general could say, wow, you know, that's respectable, that's a huge achievement. You know,
But again, maybe some people don't see it that way. I think like a lot of people like maybe lose perspective on like the degree of difficulty of doing something. And if anyone knows anything about sports, winning a Super Bowl is arguably one of the hardest things, because there's so many moving parts. Like in basketball, for example, someone like a player plays offense and defense, but in football, say you're like you only play one side. What the other side does, you have almost like no control over what they do. And the fact that like for example, like Tom Brady's like one of my biggest role models, right? And it's because like he showed in the quarterback position that what's the most important part about winning? It's like what you bring. It's his like leadership, like dedication, all these things. That's what translates to winning. You can be the most talented person in the world, but like if you don't approach like if you don't do like the boring stuff in order to be great, like you're not going to be.
Yeah.
Right?
So that pursuit of excellence is kind of what's necessary to keep moving forward. I kind of want to jump back to like what makes people unhappy, because like, you know, I think generationally there's different things that make people unhappy. Like if you think to, like you said, our generation, millennials more than anything. I don't know if you're a millennial. Are you millennial?
Technically, no. I think am I X or Z?
I think you might be Z.
I think it's Z.
Z.
Right?
I'm 97.
You're 90, so you're Z for sure. But that being said, like, what do you consider phones make people unhappy, or to that degree?
I mean, I don't think they necessarily make you unhappy. They can make you unhappy. I think it depends on how you use it. I think there's like a saying in Polish. I'm gonna translate it directly. It's like when you do like too much of something is not too good. And I think that goes for like anything. And I think the people who find themselves unhappy is like you go on social media to compare yourself to others, right? And that's gonna bring you down, because when you look at social media, you are seeing everyone in the best version of themselves. So you're comparing yourself to the best version of everyone, but you compare yourself to how you are now. And so that's why I think it can be really, really toxic. And a lot of things that are done on phone, like we know this, like the research has been shown that like Instagram, Facebook, all these social media platforms, they specifically design these apps to like suck you in. They make it as addictive as possible. That's their goal, is because they know it's going to keep you there, more ad money, and the machine keeps spinning, right? And so I think a lot of people that experience these problems when it comes to like depression or anxiety or things like that, I think a lot of it has to do with like phones, and you're constantly comparing yourself to others. And a lot of it, I think, is not necessarily your fault. You have to like understand that these things are designed to keep you hooked, because that's how they make money, right?
So I want to bring this up so I don't forget it. But you read this article or study or theory about different regions in the world, different countries and cultures, and the different levels of happiness between them. I want to get to that in a second, by bringing up a point where I'd argue that, and I'm only going to talk about the U.S. because like we live here. I feel like in the U.S. overall, society is unhappy. On average, I'd say it leans more towards unhappy than happy. And I would argue that people aren't, because one, society, I think, society and like media as a whole pushes these almost unreachable goals or like perspectives on people. Like when you see models wearing like boxers or bikinis or like suits or whatever, right? You're like, oh, that's like, when you see that image, there's so much behind it, like Photoshop and obviously makeup and lighting and everything to make that photo look so perfect. But in reality, it's unachievable, right? And you see that everywhere and all the time. And there's different diets and workout routines, like lose 10 pounds in like, 2 hours.
5 days.
Right?
2 days.
Whatever. And these like big fads that come up, and people, I think, are led to believe that, oh, maybe I should try a diet. Maybe I should do this because everyone else is doing it. And it kind of, society perpetuates kind of like this toxicity. But I think it's also, I partly want to say it's to blame on the people, because they can't just be honest with themselves and recognize, okay, actually, let me take a pause and a step back and really understand and ask myself, what makes me happy, not what should I do to make someone else happy, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to surround yourself with people that respect and appreciate you for who you are. You don't want to fit into a mold to like make other friends and stuff, right? Like I don't get buffed to impress other people because my friends don't care that I'm buff or not buff, right? At least I hope you guys don't, but
I care.
I don't.
I don't know about this guy.
I'm pretty buff. So.
But I guess that kind of goes, with that being said, I want to bring it back to like that article and study you read about like the different cultures.
I remember it was like, I think I actually heard it on a different podcast. I don't remember which one where, but it was about the study that like the scientist was doing.
Yeah.
And he was looking at happiness as a whole and like happiness on regions. And I don't think it really takes a rocket scientist to figure out that I feel like America is definitely a lot of people are unhappy. And it's kind of ironic too, because like around the world, America is seen as, it's America. It's the mecca of prosperity, Wall Street, New York, like all of these like success, big buildings, Hollywood, right? But I think when you go to a lot of these places, you realize that like these people have quote unquote everything. So why aren't they happy, right? And so there was like another study that was done that $80,000 a year, that's what is ideal in order to bring someone happiness. Anything over that is not going to bring you happiness. But
on
I mean,
average,
yeah. Right? But I mean, I think that's true. Like you need money. You need money to live, right? I like to say like having money, like being rich is not going to make you happy, but living in poverty is probably going to make you miserable, right? And so like you need to find like that happy medium between the two.
Yeah.
So I totally forgot what the original question was. I totally went off on like a tangent.
No, and it's good thing you bring that up, because I think it kind of goes back to, I guess, the original question, like what do other regions and cultures, like one, are other countries, cultures, geographical regions in the world on average happier than the States? And then two, why are they happier? And what you said is really important, because here in America and the States, people really look at money and material wealth as like the source of happiness, right? Like if once you achieve wealth, you can buy a Lambo and a villa in California and like fly every weekend to party in Ibiza or like all over the world, and you're gonna get babes and just have dollar bills raining out of your shower every time, and like
I feel like you're projecting right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely giving a dude's perspective on this, dude. That's like any 16-year-old dude's like
Right.
idea of happiness.
right, you know, and that's people just keep pushing on like money, achieve like, you know, higher positions, more wealth, and you're gonna be happy.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think it goes back to values though. So like why you're talking on that, according to this study, right? In America, for some reason, like in other countries, when you go to other cultures, they know that like if I want to be happy, I need to, like I'm gonna help someone, right? No, like I think that's one of the biggest things that brings people happiness is when you help someone. Like when you go and you help someone, like let's be real, we all feel good because you helped someone.
yeah.
And for some reason, that's like not the first thing that comes into Americans' minds. And I guess my thing on there is like, think about the things that we value, right? When someone comes up to you, he's like, yo man, I work 85 hours a week. Man, I got a promotion, I got this, I got that. I'm like, well, working 85 hours a week, well, number one, is making you happy. I'm gonna probably say no because you're overworked. Number two, what is that doing to your health?
Yeah.
Like this is not good for you long term, for your mental health, for your physical health, and everything. So why do, as a society, we value that? We hear, oh man, he's a hard worker. He works 85 hours a week. Good for him. This guy's a bum because he doesn't work, right? And so it's like that kind of perspective that we have on it.
I like to think it has a lot to do with culture for sure.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to values. You know, your family kind of, where you start brings you to the ideals of where you're gonna end. You know, if you're gonna end up valuing money or if money is a means to like actually be, you know, get to that point where you can successfully continue to provide and help other people to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where I think the United States, because I don't want to like throw everybody, but the United States is, I don't want to say has a baseless culture, but I think the American culture is to not have culture. And that is what is lacking. And that's why when people are, applauded for working 85 hours or being a workhorse or, accomplishing that degree of, I guess, fiscal advantage over other people, then that's what the culture has built here. And that's what the culture is, you know what I'm saying?
When you think about America, what's the first thing everyone thinks about America? It's always freedom. And I think it's something that every American, no matter who you are, the fact that you can live your own life however you want it is like the number one priority for any American. We love our like freedom. And I think a lot of people who come from a lot of different cultures, it's like, it's the freedom, the things that are instilled in our American culture aren't instilled in theirs. So it's something that they just don't value as much as we do.
Yeah.
And maybe the things that they value make human beings more happy than the things that we value.
Yeah. And even if they come from like poverty and they end up not achieving great success here, but they come from a country that doesn't have a lot of freedoms and they come here, they might say, look, I'm a janitor at a school or a taxi driver or a garbage worker, and sure, this isn't my dream job and I'm not, it doesn't bring me that much happiness, but I'm overall happy because I'm somewhere where I can be free and don't have to worry about, some like the police just showing up at my house and like taking me for no reason.
Quartering your house.
Yeah. So
like those lobster backs, right?
Lobster back.
The British. No one.
I'm sorry.
Because that was like one for the Revolutionary
historically
War.
wrong right now.
For the Revolutionary War, that was like one of the, or for like the Magna Carta, I think this even goes way back. Is like one of the reasons like the Magna Carta, which is like British, like what a lot of Western like laws are based off of, was that like a soldier just can't come into your house and tell you what to do, right? Like quarter your house. So I was just flashing at that, But I think a little bit on that one. But
yeah, like I said, historically, just don't remember his.
And while we're talking about different cultures and everything, this is actually something I wanted to bring up. I think like a lot of people who have family who come from different cultures definitely experience this, that they came from a different culture. Like your family wants you to like value something, but because you were like born and raised here, that like I think sometimes they don't realize, like, no matter what you do, you're gonna have different values. You were born in different times, different parts of the world. It's just like you can't even like compare, right? It's because you just come from such different backgrounds.
That's why I kind of brought up earlier, like there's a difference between generational happiness. You know, like our millennial ages are, you know, the problem, the anxiety of social media and whatnot. The next generation, who's to say that they're going to have that problem in that sense? Like, because it's acceptable for them to understand, hey, this is what we grew up in. Like, this isn't any different from just actual normal social interaction. So we're happy with this regardless.
Yeah, actually, that might be interesting. That might be, because now you see everything and like you become almost desensitized to the fact that there's so much information, so many people are doing so many different things. You just scroll through, you're like, okay, yeah, this person's skiing. Whatever, I don't care. Oh, this person's on the beach. Okay, cool. Whatever, I don't care. Because this person's at the beach. That person's doing whatever. Like, yeah, that might be.
But something, I mean, kind of building off of that, I want to get your guys' opinion if you think this like affects it as well. I don't want to misquote anything. I don't remember exactly where this came from, but I saw like some kind of study that said that women are significantly more affected by social media, things like anxiety and depression because of it than men. Like significantly. And why do you think if that is true, why do you think that's the case?
I don't necessarily believe that's true. I think there's a lot of undocumented men out there that are unhappy because of social media in that extent, but simply because it's not acceptable, or
for men to show
it's not as acceptable, you know,
for men to express negative emotions.
I guess maybe why I'm saying that is because a lot of people say, like, I think you and I, Lucas, talked about this one time, that like, oh, when you see like someone doing something on social media, it kind of like makes you feel bad that like, hey, I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing something fun. Like, look at myself specifically, I've never had that. Like, just because I see someone else having fun doesn't make me feel like I'm not having fun. Like, I do a lot of things that I find fun. This person's doing this fun, that's great. Like, I never understood that, like, why it makes you feel bad or feel worse.
I think it's because you know who you are, and you know that if someone enjoys go-kart racing every weekend, but like you recognize that's not necessarily your hobby, right? That you want to get into and spend money on, then you just see that you're like, oh, that's cool, you know, they're go-kart racing, whatever. That's something that I would have fun doing maybe once or twice, but like, you know, I'm not jealous that they're doing it all the time because it doesn't interest me, right?
But if you see Tom Wallace hit some crazy like jump, right, that's gonna make you feel weird because it's like something you're into, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but I think then
Tom Wallace is a professional skier, in case anyone doesn't know.
Yeah, it would. I would tell myself. I would say the same thing about myself. That like I know who I am, and while it would be really awesome and cool to be at the level that Tom Wallace is, doubt I'm ever gonna get there because I'm focusing and prioritizing on other things, right? And so, yeah, Tom Wallace is an amazing skier, but I have a master's degree in public policy, and I doubt he does, right?
He lives and breathes skiing, right?
Yeah, and I live and breathe, not skiing, but a whole bunch of other things, right? So there's just that trade-off and imbalance, and it is what it is. It's not that one's better than the other. I think it's just like knowing yourself and just being okay with the fact that you're not always going to be the best in everything. Just do what you enjoy and.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I don't really experience that, like feeling worse because I saw like someone says, I just like brushed it off, I guess. Like, I'm like, oh, this doesn't even like affect me. Like, why should I get upset over this? Like, great for that person. I'm gonna do what I do. I guess I'm trying to ask for like perspective, maybe, if like why people feel like that. Why do you think people feel like that?
I think people get to that degree of thought because of lack of something. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if it's necessarily
like feeling unfulfilled.
Maybe unfulfillment, but maybe lack of experience. Maybe not just unfulfillment, but like lack of experience in general. You know, I think to a certain degree, some people feel the way that you do because they have had more experiences in that sense, right? So you're like, well, I'm cool with you doing that, and you know, I'm happy for you nonetheless, but I've had a similar experience, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's funny because I always like to say that I feel like we were the generation that was like right at tail end of like the huge tech boom. Like when I was younger, like we still played outside. We went to the park. We did like these types of things. Like, but now when I look at little kids, like oh my God, dude, they're like always on electronics. It's almost unbelievable.
They're like 5 years old and are holding tablets and stuff. Yeah.
None of them like go outside or like play with other people. It's always like something electronic, and I feel like our generation, like it's not as bad yet. While we are like we use a lot of technology, we understand it. I feel like this next generation is just like it's getting even worse.
Because like
with that,
when I was working at Shaw's, or the restaurant all of us worked at, there was a couple that came in one time with like toddlers, and I asked, would we like some crayons and like a kid's menu for them to color on? And then dad replied, no, they have their tablet, so it's okay. They'll be busy that way. And I'm like, if you're there's one, I was like, to like tangent a little bit and rant. One, I saw a couple issues here. One, if you rely on like iPads and stuff to keep your children at bay, then maybe you need to work on your parenting technique. But then
telling someone how to parent, huh?
But then two, like coloring, even if if it's not in the lines, like it's developmentally important, to use your hands in like a constructive, creative way. Yeah, and like it brings creativity and stuff by like only using the iPad and only staring at a screen, like it's not very.
Trust me, anyone watching this, please color. I did it because I thought it was boring, and my coloring and handwriting sucks.
Facts.
I'm sorry, it's true.
Did you color outside of the lines all the time? Because I would color, and I'm like, oh,
I can't. Like my hand, like I was drawing, I was coloring. I'm like, why am I getting out? I'm not even trying to get out of the lines. It's just out of the lines. I can't keep it in the lines, right? I don't know if that's a problem with me, but
sounds like a real
it is a problem. You can't draw in the lines.
Yeah, man. But anyway, you said that a lot of women are unhappy. Their social media makes
apparently it's supposed to affect them more than it does men.
And I feel like that's the case because
there's a lot of pretty women out here.
That's one, and they're always constantly posting pictures, like constantly. And I think the difference, it's really easy to just look at something and there's like those like nice aesthetics about it. Like if you look at a pretty girl and it's just super easy to see that, oh wow, she's pretty. It doesn't matter anything else about her personality, where she is, what she's wearing, how much money she's making. You just look at her and wow, she's pretty, and you keep scrolling, right? But when you scroll across like a dude, then it's not so much like, oh, is he handsome, is he not? And women might think like, oh yeah, he's attractive, he's not. But for them, that visual attractiveness doesn't hold so much weight as like visual attractiveness for men. For them, they also really care about like personality, financial stability, like is he going to be a good partner, etc., etc. And so when you look at a picture of a guy, it's more important, like, if he presents himself that he's intelligent or wealthy or whatever. But it's kind of hard to just do that in one picture. And even if he surrounds himself with these objects and items that represent that, is that really all his, or did he?
Well, I mean, you can try. If you could take a picture, you can fit a Bentley, a private jet, a private yacht, and everything in the background. Right. They'll pick up the message.
They're like, all right, take it back. I'm done.
Yeah, but is that? Some people might just rent those things just for that photo or whatever. It might be like, you can't fake your body, right? You can't, like, yes, there's Photoshop and stuff, but
now you can, I guess.
But you know what I mean, right? Like, you can't fake your body, but you can fake your lifestyle, right? And I think that's maybe why it's easier for women, because it's harder to fake how you look. And if you can't like change your body to look prettier, like, and I mean things that are like, I'm not talking about like weight or like makeup. I'm talking about like jawline. How far apart are your eyes? Like, what are your eyebrows shaped? Like, where's your hairline? How does your hair fall?
And that's where it starts coming back to like why
Vitruvian perfected.
Like those genetic components of like how your cells, how your body just develops, that like what, without makeup, you can still have like nice features, be well-rounded and like proportional, or...
But I mean, I guess that's like why the study kind of circled back to why women like it affects, like social media affects women a lot more, is because like, exactly, no one's looking if like a guy's ripped or whatever it is, like really attractive. But like a lot more dudes are looking for really good looking girls on Instagram, and they found a way to monetize this too. So like props to the girls, like, hey, I'm good looking, I can make a lot of money doing this, so like all power to you. You go do that.
Sells, yeah.
Because sex does sell. But like then it becomes a slippery slope, because now this girl, like your image is your brand. That's your livelihood. That's what puts food on the table. So now all of a sudden, like the girl starts, oh man, are my eyebrows too fall apart? Or like, oh man, I don't like this picture. No, I have to it has to be a different picture. Let's take another one. And like you start really singling in on all your imperfections, which is why it might, and like, I feel like it's something guys don't do. Like when I like post something, I look at like, oh, this is a good picture, right? And I don't even think about it that much. But when I see what goes behind the scenes, when like a girl tries to like show something to the world, I'm like, oh my God, you're spending like 25 minutes asking your friends, asking your moms, asking your boyfriend, your dog, your goat, whatever it is, right?
Showing it to your dog.
What do you think? Woof woof.
Oh, yeah.
But your dogs always think you're perfect. Doesn't matter.
Facts, super facts. I think another thing that that probably adds into that, that anxiety that's worse for women in general is, I don't want to say like the liberation of women, but like the more social aspect of progression for women, you know what I'm saying? It's only been so long since women have gotten the right to vote or have made social progression.
We forget that sometimes, don't we?
It's only been so long.
100 years ago, even like...
Men have been competing for so long in general that like it's a normality. Now that, I don't want to say now that women have the option to do so, but as that time has progressed and that option to do so is more and more apparent, there's going to be a general, disparity between the women that are doing that, competing for that, and then the women that aren't, versus their values and culture, you know what I'm saying? So like maybe one woman's from a different culture that values, hey, you don't need to be on social media, you look nice, who you are, you're acceptable for who you are in general. The other woman probably comes from a different culture too. It thinks the exact same thing, but uses what she is, her brand, in general, her image, to competitively get somewhere else. And I think that's where the general disparity can, make more women unhappy because, you don't see women bring up other women often. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
At least I don't personally see women bringing up other women all the time, nowadays.
I feel like dudes always support each other. Like, hey, bro, I recognize that. Like, I respect you. Like, keep doing your thing.
Oh, for sure. Like, if like a dude, like if it's like two bros talking and a bro tells you something, you're like, oh man. But like when a girl is telling a girl something, she's like, oh, she's probably lying.
Something of the sort. Like they immediately go to like negative competition.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's where I think that would have a larger value on that study in general.
I mean, it's just like because men and women inherently, they're just different. Like the way
that's
you
like
think,
a primal
right?
thing.
I think it definitely goes back to the
100%.
primal thing.
100%.
There's women are 2 to 3 times better at reading people than men are on average, and it's just primal. It's just going way back thousands and thousands of years. That's how they developed, and we develop differently, right?
Yeah, we might be 2 to 3 times better at doing something else, but I don't know what that
I think I heard that like men are like better at focusing on a singular task, and women are better at doing many things at once. It was something like that. I don't remember exactly what the study was, but they found that also on average.
Oh wow!
Which I thought was really interesting too.
Which kind of makes sense because like my mom's her mind's always in a million
Yeah.
places at once. I'm like, yo, chill.
Meanwhile, I'm here trying to do like one singular thing correct.
You're like, hold on, even toast, even
Yeah.
butter.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, they're different. I think they're just the way we think and we interact with each other, like men and men, women and women, is very, very different. Where it just can't even be compared.
I definitely think it just goes back to the primal versus kind of like nurtured aspect of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on, Mr. Moderator, take us to the next topic.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator.
I guess. Oh yeah. Okay. So we can kind of shift gears a little bit. What was one of the happier moments in your lives? Like a moment of like pure bliss or happiness or just...
I saw a quote recently, okay? I saw a quote recently. It said, a wise man can retrieve what was once lost. And then I thought about it. I'm like, he said something, it was like a fool will feel like he can't get back what he lost, but a wise man will retrieve what he lost. And like, I think about time in that essence, right? Like, what makes you happy? What was the happiest moment in your life, or the happiest time period of your life? I kind of always go back to childhood in the sense, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my teenage years were really happy because I was just doing obnoxious things all the time. You know, I was off the wall, but it was a good time. It was a good time nonetheless. Yeah. But I think the most genuine happiness, the most unbothered I was when I was a child, when I was like ignorant to the legitimacy of life, where, you know, actual things can get you down. And when I think of that quote, I think about how when you get older, the people that long for that happiness again will never reach it. But the people that are striving to get to a point where they can be that happy again is where the difference of like that mentality is. Like, you know, we're all trying to maintain our childhood or maintain that level of bliss or ignorance to a certain extent.
Ignorance is bliss, bro.
that certain level of just like, you know, we were a child and we didn't have to worry about anything. We tried to get back to that point where we didn't have to worry about anything, you know? But I also think worrying about shit, like, I mean, helps you get to another point where, you know, you're happy still.
Yeah. For me, one of the happier moments in life, I think it was in college, and there was this girl that I was like crushing on hard, and like there was a moment where like
some spicy senorita out there.
Yeah,
caught your eye.
Oh, Lucas.
There were things that were just like it was like there was a moment where like things were going well, and I just felt like I was on cloud 9, like, wow, this is so cool.
Then you realize you're on the Titanic and that ship is sinking.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that like that's definitely one of like the first things that like comes to mind, you know. So what about you?
Being right here, right now on this podcast.
Oh my God. Thanks for watching today's episode, folks.
That's what you wanted to hear.
He did it to us again.
Man, it's really difficult to pinpoint like a certain moment. So I guess I can't necessarily do that. I think it's like I started becoming a lot more happy when I finally found the things I enjoy doing. Like the things I genuinely enjoy doing, that's kind of when I started being happy. Because I feel like sometimes, like, obviously when you're growing up, you're trying new things, this and that, and like all these things going on. And I feel like it kind of happened to me recently that I kind of like embraced who I am, the things I like. I love motorcycles. I love rock climbing. I like invest. Like, these are things that I just enjoy doing. And once I found that and I like accepted that, I just became a happier person. Because I feel like sometimes, you know, having a family, they want what's best for you. But I think sometimes they try to like force you into corners you don't necessarily want to go. They mean well, but like
it's not for you.
It's for them, and they're like, oh, he's safe. I can live well now. I can die peacefully
for their own peace.
For their own peace, exactly. And it's like they want what's best for you, right? Yeah. But I think sometimes what they think is best for you isn't necessarily what's best for you. And I feel like a lot of people like struggle with that. They're like, oh, like my parents told me this, that must be what's best for me. I'm like, well, think for yourself. Do you think that's what's best for you? Ask yourself these questions because they're really, really important. What they think might be best for you is not what's going to be best for you. Like, you know what makes you happy, and they don't necessarily know what makes you happy, right?
I was going through a phase where like I hated having Snapchat, and I never looked at people's Instagram stories because I hated seeing what other people were doing. On Instagram, I didn't follow people I knew. It was only my immediate friends and then things that interested me. But I hated it because it made me jealous, like seeing people on vacation somewhere or doing something else, or like, you know, dirt bike riding or scuba diving or whatever it could have been. And it bothered me, made me jealous, because my mentality would be, I'm not doing these things, am I a loser? They're having so much fun and I'm not. But then with time I realized that, okay, they're not doing this all the time. They're only posting this because they were able to do it and, you know, they just wanted to share it with people. But then two, I've done a lot of cool things in my life. So, you know, do I think I'm a cool person? Yeah. Do I have to be doing everything that they're doing? No. The things they're doing, do they even interest me? No. So like, why am I even feeling this way, letting myself feel this way about what I'm seeing? And after I realized that, I was then kind of came to an acceptance. I was like, all right, cool. Like, you know, everyone's going to do their thing. I'm going to do my thing, what makes me happy. And like, if that's just going to be it, you know, I'm going to move forward.
Yeah. I mean, that circling back on that, I mean, I think it's like you become a lot happier when you stop comparing yourself to others. I feel like that's where a lot of people, when it comes to social, like, why are you happy? Because you're comparing yourself to someone else, but you're comparing yourself to the best version of that self. And that was something I definitely like fell victim, especially I'm a music producer, right? So it's like one of my biggest hobbies. And like whenever I was like working on a song, when I was like mixing and doing the final masters of it, I'd be like comparing it to like other, like it's great to like reference your song with other tracks to see like the quality, but I was like comparing it always like, oh, it's not good enough, it's not good enough, it's not good enough. I'm like, well, it's subjective, right? What do I think is good enough? And it's, I had like definitely like this moment, like not too long ago, where I'm like, you know what? Why am I doing this? If I think this sounds good, I think it sounds good. That's where it ends.
Yeah.
Right? And like when you start comparing yourself to others, you feel worse because like, I'm not as good as this guy. I'm not as good as this guy because the song is supposed to sound like this. Well, who said the song is supposed to sound like this? Why don't you determine how the song is supposed to sound like, right? And when you start looking at it from like a different perspective, right? I feel like it really makes you feel happier.
When you and I were talking one time, similarly about this, you said, I realized that I'm not making music for other people, I'm making music for myself. And I'm gonna make music that makes me happy, that I enjoy making and I enjoy listening to. And that's it. Then, you know, there's different music for everyone. Some people like country, some people like jazz, some people like, you know, classical music. Doesn't mean the music that they dislike is bad music. It just means that it's not their cup of tea.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
I mean, I guess with that though too, you also have to be like realize like music production is very unique because it's like, it's a really difficult skill to pick up. Like I've been doing it for almost 7 years now and I'm still every day just learning new things. But like you have to like push yourself every single day to like, get a little bit better. Like, oh, like I'm gonna learn this little technique. Oh, if I apply this. Oh, if I like change this little thing, what is that gonna do? And over like years and years, all these things come together to like make music better. Cause like let's be real, like not everything is gonna sound great, right?
Not
and, like,
everything sucks.
especially when I started off, like my music sucked, man. Listen, half my music still sucks, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. But like when you finally like get an idea or like a song idea, like okay, this is it. This one sounds great though, so I'm gonna go ahead and work on this. It's cause like I always like say anything like success, whatever it is, success is built on a mountain of failure. You fail enough times until one time you succeed, and that's where the success comes from. And so like that's like with everything. Like not everything's gonna be a smash hit. Not anything is gonna be like absolutely perfect. But if you just kind of show up every day, just like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get a little better. I'm gonna do this. Like just show up. Just show up. Like right. And if you do that, eventually you're going to become the best version of yourself.
Showing up
right?
is like at least 80%.
Half the battle.
Yeah.
Over half the battle. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you just show up, like, well, I'm here, so I might as well do it, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So that's kind of my little 2 cents on that.
I think it's just this wrong mentality of society, because we've also talked about this, but I'll speak for myself, and if you want to pitch in, but in shout out to my parents, much love, and not to talk.
He's about to roast you guys right now, in case if you don't know what's going on here.
Not to speak poorly, but it goes back to Okay. They often compare me to like, or not often, but they have compared me to others, and they've said, well, you know, this and this friend of yours has a job here, and they have a job here. Why don't you? And what are you doing? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they don't say that to put me down, but to like motivate me, and because they want what's best. What you were saying earlier, they only want what's best for you. That, you know, they're not saying like you're incompetent for not having a job, but like what's going on, like you should have one, you know, like what's up. But I think overall society does that and says, oh well, why aren't you as successful as this guy, or look at him, he has such a huge business, why don't you come up with a business idea? And the reality is that not everyone can be an entrepreneur, and not everyone can make their own business. Not everyone can be a president, not everyone can be number one, because at that point you'd have no number ones. You'd have, everybody would be number two, right?
Tied for number one, but is that really number one then?
Yeah, exactly. So in that case, I think it's just this, maybe it's like the Western mentality, but this pursuit of just, you know, having to be number one and always having to reach the top, but
It's the American dream.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But the problem is, it's like, it's impossible because, I mean, okay, your interests are music production, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not interested in music production. Would it be a cool lifestyle? Yes, but I don't want to go through the process to get to that lifestyle because it just doesn't interest me, right?
Listen, if I had to go through the process again, I don't know if I would do it now, looking back at it.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
Let's say you become number one DJ, right? And someone tells me, it's like, oh, Lucas, he's your friend. Why didn't you become a DJ too? Like, you could have learned how to produce from him and stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, but it doesn't make me a bad person that I didn't do that. It just goes to show that that wasn't my interest, right? And if I pursue a career in whatever I achieve, someone could ask you, like, oh, Adam, you're so close with Lucas. Why didn't you do something similar? You could have achieved the same position. And your response is, okay, great. But, like, you know, that's...
I don't want that position.
Yeah,
right?
That's why I'm the number one producer and he's the number one in whatever he's doing, right?
Yeah.
And but society just keeps comparing people instead of society itself accepting the fact that everyone's different and like let everyone do whatever they want.
And social media makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because it makes it easier to compare everyone because everything's so accessible all the time.
Mm-hmm. I think what you said earlier is just like this one big toxic melting pot of
black. Pot of black.
Mm-hmm.
Pot of black.
Yeah, it's not cool, and it's just annoying that there's just so much negative energy that gets put into the world, and then people just keep swimming in it and swimming in it. I think it's getting better because also through social media, it's easier to tell people like, hey, don't take everything you see on social media as serious, and like these studies are coming out, so people are kind of sobering up to the fact that, okay, people only put the best versions of themselves on social media, but that's only like 1%. That's only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much in their life that goes on underneath the surface that they don't share with the world. And just be happy doing whatever you want. So I think that's helping ease that toxicity and kind of make things better. But I think we still have a long way to go.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you think about it, like going back to the generation thing, you know, the next generation after us is going to have an easier time understanding that this is, I guess, quote unquote normal, but normal to the extent that it's acceptable for them and it's not going to negatively affect their happiness in general, you know what I'm saying?
Because it is what they are growing up with, and it becomes their standard, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's like a huge problem, is like the generational gap, and like like for example, anyone from a different generation compares what you're doing to how they did it and how it was for them. Which obviously we all do it. It's like, no, you're not victim. Like, it's not your fault necessarily that you're doing that, but that's just what you know. And like sometimes I feel like a lot of people from different generations have like trouble saying like, oh, like this, like for example, the job market now versus the job market like when your parents were coming in. Those are completely two different things.
Yeah.
The internet wasn't even a thing when you were doing like, and that's like one of the biggest businesses. Tech is probably going to be the biggest business in general. And I think like definitely like a lot of older people like don't embrace like, for example, technology, right? Like they lose it, and like the fact that AI, like all these things are coming out, like their head spinning, right? And it like almost like scares you. And that I totally understand that, but like it's a totally different world out there, and there's like many different problems that like and I'd say now, especially with like coronavirus and everything, for people like us who are just kind of getting started in their professional lives, man, it takes an impact because like
this is what almost the anniversary of like COVID starting.
Almost 1 year, yeah.
Almost 1 year. That's like
COVID started in December of 19,
but we didn't lock down to like beginning of March, right?
That's when you started hearing about it in like China and stuff.
It didn't become a problem until
I remember
soon.
March 2nd, I went to the Dallas Mavericks Chicago Bulls game. Now looking back at it, I'm like, what if I like could time travel, go back like, hey, this is the last sporting event you're probably gonna go for a really long time. I didn't know, you didn't know. I'm like, I was leaving and I'm like, wow, I'm not gonna leave my house for like months, right? Or like leave my house. Obviously you leave your house, but you know what I mean by that, right?
I remember, what was it, last Valentine's Day, it was, we went to a spa and I was like, this, who knew that this was the last time we were gonna go do something like this close to other people, you know?
Exactly. But I don't know, I feel like the psychological effect all of this has.
It was gonna be so long term.
We're humans, we're social creatures. There's something like when you bond with a bunch of people in a big setting, in a big group, in a big crowd, it like you feel powerful because you're all united in something. And that's something that's really missing, which is why like suicide rates, domestic violence, everything shot through the roof through these through the coronavirus lockdowns and everything, right? And so I feel like that created like a whole slew of problems that we're gonna have for years and years and years.
I wonder if like one thing I love doing is like going to concerts, right? And like getting in the mosh pit and like crowd surfing, and I wonder if we're ever gonna get back to that level where it just like all willy-nilly, free, open, like you know, even Lollapalooza or Coachella or Tomorrowland, where it's just swarms of people. And that's it. And it's okay.
That brings us back to the question: who's gonna be the first? Who's gonna be the first one to say, "All right, take the masks off, resume"? Who wants to? Like, no one wants to be that first guy, and so that's the question: is like,
no one wants to take that responsibility and
of the possibility of something.
But I mean, like,
happening.
We have to eventually get back to like some sort of normalcy. I feel like this is unsustainable for a long time. Like. It's against everything we human beings are programmed to do. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Well, the virus is serious and things like that. You have to like be cautious and diligent. You have to realize that this is not sustainable. We're gonna lose our minds.
Yeah, I'm not downplaying the virus, but I always wear my mask. But I'm not gonna deny that it's like still pretty annoying. You know, like you know. Leaving the house, you're like, oh shoot, I forgot my mask, I gotta go back. Or you get out of the car, you're like, dang, I forgot a mask, I gotta go back.
You're that Obama meme running back and forth to get his mask. Oh, got everything. I saw that one. Forgot my mask.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, and you can't see people. It's harder to hear people, especially if there's plexiglass in between you. I'm like, it's just, you know, we're right here, but we're still also so far apart.
Something as like meeting like girls or something. Right?
Oh, bro, yes.
I don't even know how you look like. How am I supposed to know if I like you or not?
Well, that's one, but then...
Excuse me, can you take off the mask? Like what?
But then,
right? That'd be the next romantic gesture. Baby, I just want to take your mask off.
But, so yeah, that's...
I want to see what that mouth do.
What that smile do, girl.
That's one, but then two... Okay, let's say you're like, okay, yeah, she's pretty enough for me to at least talk to her and ask her. So you're
wow, like, Lucas, okay.
Check.
Excuse me, she's pretty enough for you.
Whatever. And you go up to her and you're talking to her. She's like, and you know, you're trying to set up a date. And then she's like, oh, but it's a pandemic. So maybe afterwards. And you're like, oh, so what was even the point of like...
But also, are you meeting this hypothetical girl because now, like, there's limited a lot of situations where you met new people, like when I was in college or something, bars, places like this, but all of these social outlets are like locked down, right? And so like there's like so limited opportunities, like what? Tinder, like these dating apps, like the internet is kind of like your one way of like meeting new girls, new guys, whatever the situation is, right?
Yeah.
It definitely like it makes it a lot harder because not only do you not see the person when you see him in person, there's a lot less situations where you actually see someone else, right?
And I feel like at this point, people either have a lot to talk about or not very much to talk about because
they haven't done anything for a year.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's and then I'm starting to like forget what life used to be like, and
it's only been a year.
Yeah, people are like, "Oh, how have you been?" This and that. I'm like, "Oh, fine." Just one word answers, because you're just unhappy. But like, I lived the whole 24 years, 25 years before the pandemic. But it seems like it was just so far away, and it's almost like not
pandemic makes you really think, did you live those 24 years before?
You know what's funny though?
I'm a different man coming out of it.
You know what's funny though? I've seen some people that are absolutely like thriving because of the pandemic. It seems like I feel like there's some people who are just like don't necessarily like interaction with people and things like that.
Introverts, yeah.
Not necessarily introverts, but there's like certain types of people that like just don't need as much human contact as some others. Mm-hmm. I know people since last year March haven't left their house. Yeah. They have not physically opened the door and left their house yet. Can you imagine?
Do they just have groceries and everything delivered?
Everything delivered. Yeah. Everything that they possibly need gets delivered.
Wow.
And I'm like, you find me in the nut house. I'd be in a full restraint jacket if like that was me. I can't just like sit at home and not see people. They're like, oh, it's great. If I have friends, like I don't have to leave the house. I just talk to them through Zoom and that's it. Yeah. I'm like, that's not the same thing.
It's not
the same thing. Like the human touch, like physically sitting down with someone, talking to them face to face is something completely different than talking with someone over the phone. I'm sorry. It's just
no, you're absolutely
but it seems like some people, they're just like almost okay with it. And it honestly sometimes blows my mind to even see that.
It kind of blows my mind too, just because I need physical touch and like actual human interaction to a certain degree. I'm just to a certain degree I'm cool of just not meeting with people all the time. But it is hard when I think about it. Like the effects of this pandemic. Are people going to be more socially awkward after this? I don't know.
I mean, but I think the pandemic really exposed like a lot of problems that's going on because like I mentioned earlier, like domestic abuse, domestic violence thing, that is especially up, and it made you realize that a lot of people you don't get along well with a lot of people that you live with, and the pandemic forced people to have to like confront your problems, and like you might have not realized that these problems were there before because your escape was, oh, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go to the bar. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go travel somewhere else, right? These are things that kept you distracted from the overarching problem going on in your household. Like, sad to see, right?
It is.
Interesting.
I work at a liquor store right now, and one of the delivery guys that was coming by, I don't know how we all got on this topic, but he was telling us about the increase in like sales and percentages of different liquor stores. And he said across the board, no matter how big or small the store is, all liquor stores have seen a huge increase in sales and liquor sales, and more alcohol is being sold.
Same thing with marijuana.
Part of me gets it because, like bars are closed, so people that still want to consume alcohol, they just go to liquor stores. But I'm also curious to know if like alcoholism went up, which I'm sure it did. And then also, people need an escape, but they can't just go out, hang out with their friends, so they just turn to alcohol, even though
substance abuse.
Even though they didn't drink alcohol before, or they only drank it socially. Now, because they don't have any type of escape, like gyms were closed, restaurants were closed, libraries were closed, everything was closed at some point. They're like, I literally have nothing else. I'm bored and sick and tired of everything in my house because I've already done everything. I'm just gonna start drinking,
But do you think also like what plays into that is the fact that it's so very socially acceptable to do that? And let me elaborate a little bit on that. I don't know if you guys like picked this up, but when I was watching I don't know if you've seen any of the Super Bowl commercials or anything. Did you guys watch the Super Bowl?
I didn't.
So a lot of the Super Bowl commercials were like alcohol. They were beer. They're beer, seltzers, different types of alcohol. And I was like watching everything from like a psychological standpoint. I'm like, they're like, it seems like they're promoting that, hey, this is cool, this is okay, like, check out this lifestyle around this alcohol. And it's sort of like, I don't want to say...
It's like what cigarettes did to
exactly. It's like the advertising, you're like, this seems like it's made for a younger audience.
They're having a good time, so
They're having a great time. They're
So
with
I
friends.
have
They're
a
doing
good time.
trendy things that we and people younger us that we find cool. Why is that? And like, I feel like that's something that's not very much talked about, because when it comes to other substances, tobacco now we know, or weed, or whatever the substance is, right? It's not the same. It seems like with alcohol, it's perfectly okay. Like, oh, this guy drinks too much. Ha ha ha! I had 30 beers yesterday. That's fine. But this guy smokes. Oh man, that guy smokes. That's gonna kill you. Or like, this guy does coke. Oh my god, I can't believe he does that. Meanwhile, pounding back 30 beers, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's a double standard for it.
Don't do
Drugs
drugs.
and alcohol. Why are those two things separated?
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs.
We're not promoting them.
But alcohol's cool if you drink 30 beers in a night.
Whoa.
Hey,
Said
Lucas,
no one ever. Said losers.
Lucas,
Don't drink
the only drug we need is white powder, though, right? Snowboarding. We're talking about snowboarding.
Yeah, snowboarding.
Skiing.
Oh.
White powder.
Got it for a second.
Oh, okay.
Got it for a second.
We need mountains of white powder.
Okay.
They're called the Rockies in Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
It is a double standard, though,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it goes further to our topic. I think it definitely creates the unhappiness.
The disparity,
I-
happiness. And
yeah.
Yeah. It's just
Exactly.
people. Yeah, it's like pushing the lifestyle or just that comparisons, unhealthy comparisons across the board for everyone, and it's all either for marketing or like promoting your self-image, but unhealthily. And parents, going back to parents, how they sometimes say, oh, why aren't you doing this? And Joe Schmo got a job here, why don't you try to? It's like, no, like, don't, like, people just need to be honest with themselves, recognize who they are, and like, that's it, and not worry about anyone else.
And that all ties back to like, why is it like that? Why is it pushed upon you? Because the priority isn't happiness. The priority is to like image. That's the priority. You have to be well off and everything. So like, hey, this guy's successful. This guy, I can talk about my son, daughter, whatever it is. This guy's successful. It's about image.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You could be miserable. They're happy because you got a job. You're doing well. You can whatever.
It's
right?
actually funny, not to go back to my parents again, but when my mom and I were talking, and I was like, but why do you why do you compare me to others? Why is it so important for you? And she said something like, well, when I talk to these other moms on the phone, they're always telling me what their sons are doing or daughters are doing, and then when they ask about you guys, like, I don't really have much to say because you're not really doing anything. I'm like, okay, so in that case, like, or do you want me to be successful and stuff, or do you just want do you want to have something to say to other people? It's just like, what's right and what's
But
wrong.
also, like, the grass is always greener on the other side. In that situation, I'd be like, you want to know the truth about the sons you're talking about? That guy got a DUI. That guy does coke every single weekend.
Yeah.
This guy does something else, right? It's
they all
always, the
hate their
grass is always
jobs.
green on the
Yeah.
other side, right?
And so they have a job, they're making money, but like they're not happy in their jobs, they're miserable, right? So it's like, what price are they paying for it?
Yeah, and like if you have like, say you have a son or daughter and everything, and if I were to have a family at some point, I'd want to be like, hey, what do you enjoy doing? Well, if this is you enjoy doing, like, I'm gonna support you. I understand, like, this might be risky. Like, this endeavor might be risky.
Let's see if we can mitigate those risks, but I want to support
Exactly.
you. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about the risk management. Any investor knows risk management. That's what it comes down to.
And just being understanding and
Yes.
like open-minded.
So to kind of move this topic away from
What a tangent, right?
unhappiness, because I feel like we focused on that. What are some things you would do to not achieve happiness, but to promote happiness to others? Like, what do you think you could do?
Well,
What actually engages people to be happy, other than doing?
watching the T10 podcast every Wednesday.
Yeah.
That'll make you happy.
And it'll make us happy too, because you happy, me happy, we all happy, right?
See,
We're one
I'm talking about my podcast.
happy
I'm talking like it is.
just so you know, we never were hiring for this position, but Adam just got our spokesman position because he's just promoting us so well this whole episode tonight. I know I would tell people, don't compare yourself to others. Be honest with you, your interests and desires, and just pursue those. And the people who ridicule you for that, well, you don't need those people in your life anyway. So surround yourself with people and things that do make you happy, and then that's it. You know.
Yeah. AKA be you. Unless you can be me, because I'm pretty awesome. So if you can be me. But if you can't, just be yourself.
Again.
Oh, this guy.
Don't do drugs or anything. Don't compare yourself. Be you.
Just so everyone knows, Adam just got fired from the spokesman position.
Yeah.
With his
I can still put on my resume though, because that was
the best short-lived amount of work ever.
Yeah. What would you do?
What would I do? I mean, I think it would just go more to interacting with people. You know?
Which again comes back to the coronavirus thing, which is why I think a lot of people are unhappy, especially in these times.
Yeah, just interacting with people, you know?
Yeah.
Interacting and understanding people, end of the day. Because what's only reason why people compare is because they lack the understanding of what the other person is doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is, I feel like all of us deep down know what makes us happy. I really do. We know there's things that always get, like, if you're alive, there's a reason you got up that day, right?
Yeah.
You're up, you're doing something, right? I think deep down we all know what makes us happy. I think sometimes we're a little bit tempted, or like we suppress that because of outside factors, right?
Yeah.
And so it really comes down to, like, deep down you know what makes you happy, so you kind of have to just go off that. See if it works out. Like, think about it short term. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day, but what can I do to lay down those first stones? Lay down that pathway in order to start getting closer to that goal. It's not going to happen overnight, but like, I feel like a lot of things that people enjoy doing, that you're able to monetize what you're doing, but you have to realize that, like, this isn't going to happen overnight. You're not going to make $1 million and be super successful, happy, and rich overnight.
I mean, we do with every episode. We make $1 million overnight. But
Every night.
Every night.
Successful.
But
Happy. Understand us.
but yeah, no, I hear that.
Yeah. I think that's a wrap, though. I think that's where.
We're gonna wrap it up, because you know what? Happiness is a circle of, like, you know, you gotta feel the bad to get the good.
Gotta wrap it up. If not in the wraps, though, you can tortilla it up, though, right?
I feel like
different type of.
He's talking about food, guys. He's talking about food.
I'm just gonna say, I hate that there's so much negativity in the world, and it's just annoying. I'm like, yo, I don't need these bad vibes. Don't kill my vibe. Just like,
it's hard because you can perpetuate the unhappiness, because we were doing that for like a solid amount of time.
Because
you know what I'm saying?
I kept saying, like, negativity is toxic. There's a reason. There's a reason when you turn on the news, there's usually something negative, because negativity draws eyeballs. We always psychology, man.
Yep. Nobody wants to hear about the good. They want to hear and see all the drama. You know.
Yeah.
All the doom and gloom.
Seriously. So, but anyway, thanks for joining us for another episode of the T-Town Podcast. Adam, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciated it.
Till next week, folks, on our next episode. Deuces, pooches.
Stay up. Peace.
Continue sipping that tea.
Yep. There you go.
イタチ、最後に約束しろ。
分かってるわ。
I'm not gonna lie to you. I think my phone didn't have enough room.
Really?